I welcome colleagues that are joining this segment of the breakout session. And this particular segment is going to be looking at Nigerians NDC and addressing current environmental challenges. And in this particular session, we will be talking about the current Nigerians' effort to revise its 2015 NDC. As you will recall, under the Paris Agreement, the NDC have a 5-year cycle, and 2020 was supposed to be a revision year. Unfortunately, because of the COVID, we couldn't do that, and that had been 2021. And the Department of Climate Change, being the focal point, is in the process of finalizing the revised NDC 2021. And within this session, we'll be inviting the Director of Climate Change, the Department of Climate Change, to provide an overview of what they have done in this particular sphere, particularly the opportunities that the revised NDC is going to provide and some of the challenges they have faced.
So good afternoon, dear participants, dear panelists, and sorry for this technical difficulties. So it's my pleasure to welcome you to this first panel of this Nigeria EU Climate Diplomacy event on meeting Nigeria's NDC and addressing current environmental challenges. The European Union, as a climate leader guided by science, has stepped up its domestic commitments, adopting the objective of climate neutrality by 2050 and enhancing in short-term GHG emission reduction target. And thus, the EU's NDC to at least 55% by 2030 compared to 1990. And here in Nigeria, the European Union has continued to support climate actions that strengthen the resilience of Nigerians to adapt to climate change and actions that help in reduction of emission of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. The Paris Agreement provides the indispensable multilateral framework governing global climate action. The European Union calls on all parties to enhance the ambition and increase the clarity, transparency, and understanding of their NDCs, as well as to communicate long-term emissions development strategy well ahead of the 26th conference of the parties to COP26 in Glasgow this year. Let me use this medium to congratulate Nigeria for the successful review of its NDC. In Nigeria, the European Union has co-financed the NDC support program implemented by UNDP, which coordinated the review process of Nigeria's new NDC. We have as well supported the review of the energy sector NDC targets through the Nigerian Energy Support Program implemented by the GIZ. And we have supported the process of including waste sector as a priority sector in the new revised NDC for Nigeria. We hope to increase our climate finance to support new and existing climate actions in Nigeria through our new program cycle from 2021 to 2027. Under our green and digital economy focal area in our new program, our activities will focus on climate change mitigation and adaptation, circular economy, digital economy, and sustainable energy access. I wish you all and to all of us an exciting and informative session of discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cecile Tassin Peza, Head of Cooperation EU Delegation to Nigeria and to the ECOWAS. Fantastic. Now, I think we have to call on the Director, Department of Climate Change, to make her short presentation. Oh, Uzi is back as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chooks, and I apologize for the break in transmission. It's certainly beyond me. So I will quickly invite the Director of Climate Change to provide the overview on the revision process and of course the opportunities, and then I will thereafter invite the panelists to make some quick responses before I redirect specific questions to them, and then we can open the sessions to question and answers. And there is a chat. If any discussion is ongoing and you feel compelled, you want to ask a question or you need clarification, you can drop a chat in the chat box and we'll take that afterwards. So may I invite the Director of Department of Climate Change. You have, unfortunately, I have to shorten your time now. So you have 10 minutes to quickly give us this overview, and then thereafter I invite the panelists to make quick responses afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huzi. You're welcome back, and thank you for Prof for anchoring this segment too, and Mr. Seal for the very kind remarks. With that being said, I have 10 minutes so graciously given to me by Mr. Huzi. I hope I'm able to do it for less. So basically, the overview I'm going to give on the NDC is focused more on the 2021 revised NDC. I'm going to try and kind of showcase what the enhancements have been, what opportunities and there are, and then what the implementation is likely going to look like. With that being said, basically the NDC, which is a climate action, is encased within the vision that we have for climate action in Nigeria, which is encased in the what we call the National Climate Change Policy as updated to cover 2021 to 2030. And basically it's about promoting low carbon, climate resilient and gender responsive, sustainable socio-economic development. And this current NDC revised document has captured our national priorities and aligns with our National Economic Sustainability Plan, our medium-term National Development Plan, and the Agenda 2050. The process started off last year, as Huzi had earlier started saying, and what was done within that process was to review GHG inventory, doing the updating of the LEAP emissions model. A lot of the work that has gone into it, about 20 implementing partners helped us with it. The document came and it, I think I had given a little bit of that. I'll give a little bit of what this particular NDC entails later, but we have an enhanced NDC. And this NDC document has, draft document has started moving around for the validation, and we're doing like the last parts of it. Yesterday, we did that for the parliamentarians. So basically, as you've heard earlier, we have submitted an interim report and ICTU table to the UNFCCC, and this qualifies us to seek NAMA support for the implementation part. So we're about finalizing on the draft NDC, which we hope would push to the FEC, Federal Executive Council, by the 31st of July. With that being said, I had earlier said that I'll give a general overview of what this enhanced NDC has. It has covered the issues on gender, green job assessment, vulnerability mapping, waste and water sectors. These are the new sectors additional to the 2015 sectors. So we now have, instead of 5 we had earlier in 2015, we have 7 sectors, and under this other work activities came on. We have nature-based solutions, we have forestry issues, cooling efficiency, short-lived climate pollutants, covering issues of methane leaks, and clean cooking. With that being said, the modeling was based on the historical period of 2010 to 2018, and it's projected to cover a baseline scenario of 2019 to 2030. It covers, this particular NDC covers gases, 11 gases, as you can see enumerated, and these were sourced from energy, IPPU, AFOLU, and waste. This slide just gives an idea of what the amount of work that has gone into the NDC revision. 18 plus plans, 63 mitigation measures identified, evaluation of these, what the NDC emission reduction potentials can be, and then of course, giving us opportunities to be ambitious in climate commitment. So this just gives an idea of what had happened in 2015 with the INDC measures and what has been the enhanced measures we have put in place for the revised NDC. The box on the right on the top gives an idea of what we have done so far, but we can do even more for maximum ambition. Those are the 4 measures that we have put down there in that table, which includes, of course, LPG issues, energy efficiency issues, and of course, the methane in oil and gas. This table basically shows the costs, the financial cost of implementing the NDC. In the 2015 scenario, we needed about $144 billion US. If we're taking the enhanced measures and implementing, we'll need additional to that $18 billion US. And if we're going to the maximum ambition, we will need $15 billion. So implementing the NDC will have a lot of financial cost implications, as you can see. So is it just about cost and work? But then, yes, the NDC revision is about being concluded, but there is still opportunities for support perhaps and for more work to be done, which we have tried to enumerate here. We could do with a lot of support with long-term climate action frameworks for the subnationals. Of course, we need the means of implementation, which includes finance, capacity building, technology, development and transfer, and all the enablers of climate action. We also, of course, we will need support in implementing the sectoral NDC sectoral action plan that was done earlier and the ones that we hope to do for the other 2 sectors that have come on board for the revised NDCs. A lot of capacity building is required, a lot of integrating of the general climate change agenda is required to enable us to work very well with the subnationals. Also, of course, there's been a lot of complaint of people not knowing what climate change is and how to take action. So we need to up our game with raising awareness among all stakeholders at all levels and all sectors. With that being said, I would like to stop this here, and I hope that I have not incurred the wrath of our newly brought back MC for this segment. Thank you very much, Mr. Huzi.
Yeah, thank you very much for providing that overview, and we apologize for stampeding you because based on my dropping of the call, I think we've lost some time and we have to close this meeting by 1:30. So we have like 45 minutes to go, and we want to make it as interactive as possible. So I will quickly now invite part of my members of our panelists to provide quick response. Professor Oladipo has been one of us for a very long time. He's been our mentor, our teacher, and he's been part of this process, having worked in the international space in the UNDP in the 90s, and of course, he had also led Nigerian delegation on adaptation negotiation, and indeed, he had led some national processes. Recently, of course, the revision of the national climate change policy. Prof, if you may, can you quickly give us some quick response to the overview that had been presented, particularly the new aspect of enhancement that Halima had indicated, and whether or not this is something that gladdens us and we look forward to increased ambitions. Prof, over to you, please.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, Prof, I can hear you.
Thank you very much. I'm really very impressed. I would like to congratulate the ministry or the government of Nigeria in particular, general, in ensuring an immediate collaborative partnership in this area that we have all been excited about. I think the government of Nigeria has demonstrated a very serious commitment to making the issue of climate change, not just climate change for climate change's sake, but making it as part of our national development, in which if we carefully and seriously, in an integrated manner, put all the issues that Aja Lima had enumerated in the last few minutes together in a national framework for development, I think Nigeria will really be able to address the issue of climate change in a more holistic and a more integrated manner than we have been doing before. In this area, I'm really very grateful. I just want to add that let us regard this as more or less the beginning of the our great input into the Agenda 2050 of the country. If we can use the climate change, addressing the challenges of climate change in Nigeria through the various activities, actions, initiatives that are going to be initiated, enumerated in the implementation plan for the NDC very well, I think they will be able to really capture our development in a particular manner that we not be giving the impression that climate change is on its own, but rather that climate change is part of our development and we must really use it to enhance our development. For instance, let me give you an example, what we found in the water resources analysis. It showed clearly that there's no way out now than to have a nationally integrated approach to managing the water resources, both the surface and the groundwater resources of the country in a way and manner that can benefit all, and using very clear energy efficiency technologies as well as nature-based solutions. And that relates to the issue that our Honorable Samuel mentioned, the issue of the Lake Chad. In my own view, I think we should try as much as possible right away to see how we can work together and see how to quickly develop means and strategies by which even the existing available water resources in this region, once there's peace in the area, can be utilized for development of the people, while we are also looking at the way by which, otherwise, if we wait for the next 10 years till Lake Chad is recharged, a lot of things will have been completely wiped out. But there's a lot of potentially large amount of water underground that can be used to develop this area, but in an integrated manner that will not further damage the environment. Also, the issue of waste. This nation, I wouldn't say it's a wasteful nation, but it's a nation full of waste. And NDC and climate change implementation have demonstrated clearly in the series of analysis that the potential to utilize the so-called waste to what we call the 10 R's is such that it provides a good opportunity for job employment, opportunities for the young ones that are all roaming around, and a lot of opportunities for even big industries to make use of these waste products, to turn them into other elements and materials that other industries can quickly use or can be the final products of their own productivity. So this is the advantage that I think we need to capitalize on. I will advise, therefore, that the first thing we should do is the Department of Climate Change should be properly supported to now put all these ideas, not into sectoral plans, all these ideas into a nationally developed, integrated development plan for the country that can easily be mainstreamed into the national development program of the country, both at the national and the subnational levels, so that we will be implementing a comprehensive program in which all agencies, all stakeholders, the private sector, the civil society, and the non-state actors can be part of this implementation plan that can make us to achieve some of the very noble, ambitious plans that we have for the country in addressing the challenge of climate change through the implementation of the NDC and making sure that Nigeria sees it as a development program that can make Nigeria to develop and also contribute significantly to meeting the global obligations of reducing the GHG emissions and also enhancing the resilience and the capacity of the country to adapt to the changes in the climatic variations that we know will continue to be with us for a long time to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you, Prof, for bringing up the issue of implementation in an integrated manner. I think one of our biggest challenges in this country is not for lack of policies or lack of strategies, but I think the manner in which those strategies are being implemented has been the biggest bane. And we are hoping that the NDC as a tool for economic transformation should be implemented in a more integrated manner, and specifically ensuring that sub-national states and other non-state actors are part of the implementation plan. Thank you. We'll come back to you to talk about issues of sustainable development later, but I will want to invite Mr. Nimo Basi. I'm not sure, Nimo Basi, I can see you online. Is Nimo Basi online, please? Can somebody confirm for me? Okay, we have Mr. Kelu Chinedu is a Nigerian youth and he's still in his final year in the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and he's award winner of the Clinton Global Initiative Fellow and also the co-founder of a organization that works on social impact startups and of course on just transition. Kelu, you've had the elements of the new the revised NDC, and as a Nigerian youth, and of course, how do you see your role in terms of harnessing the energy and innovativeness of the resourceful Nigerian youth, and what kind of opportunity do you see there for economic transformation for the Nigerian youth? Kelu, you have the floor, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Susie. I think looking through the NDCs and watching through Halima makes the presentation, I think there are very, very ambitious elements of the NDCs, one that I think posed a significant opportunity to not just the Nigerian youth, but the broader Nigerian population. And one of them is the ministry commitment to mainstreaming gender across all sectors through the National Action Plan on Gender and Climate, and also the green job. I think one particular emphasis I try to bring in the green job area is that trying to transition to a more just and sustainable society will require a transition to low carbon technologies. And to transition to low carbon technologies means there should be enough opportunity for young people and for the broader population to have jobs in these areas, that jobs that will lead us to transition. And if you talk about the energy and resourcefulness of the Nigerian youth and how we can mobilize or optimize this towards a just recovery, I would like to stress some 3 points that I think is very necessary for a just transition. And one of those points is, Nigeria have a very youthful population, and talking about sustainable or innovative climate solution, we talk about social innovation. The Nigerian youth are uniquely positioned to read the stage in social innovation. And if we have to get a just transition, we have youth building amazing and high impact solutions in green energy, in regenerative agriculture, in various low carbon technology. So I think the NDCs try to capture various elements of implementation partners. So I think I would very much likely to see a partnership between not just the youth and not just the younger generation and the older generation, like in an intergenerational collaboration in the implementation of the NDCs, because I believe that intergenerational collaboration between the younger generation and the older generation is a golden thread that binds the narrative across generations. But also the young people bring the energy, the creativity, and the zeal, while the older generation bring this experience-based knowledge, that is indispensable in if we have to achieve a just transition. And another opportunity I think I would like to see spring up to enable youth take up more leadership is setting up a venture capital that funds climate tech ventures. You know, if you look at the climate ecosystem in the startup ecosystem in Nigeria, you find out that youths are leading most of this initiative. So setting up a venture capital fund that funds various and high impact climate tech companies or climate tech startups. These startups and these individuals will be the ones that fix the friction that exists in our path to transitioning to net zero. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelu, for bringing some very creative thinking to the issue of youth innovativeness, identifying high impact ventures where, of course, youth can direct their energy to, and of course, the issue of the kind of venture capital that will be required to support this. So before I actually invite the other panelists to make their intervention, perhaps Halima, if you are still there, can you quickly just maybe respond to those issues specifically on the kind of thinking that the DCC has on engagement with youths and going forward before I invite the other panelists. Halima, please, if you're there.
I was multitasking, but thank you for bringing it to my attention. So regarding the youth, we know that we've engaged with them under the National Youth Hub, and some activity has been done. We hope to conclude on that. We know that also we have had a youth manual developed for climate action. And yes, we intend to continue with those engagements we started with the youth. And we do apologize, it's not that long. COVID came, yes. And of course, the funding is not exactly available to our partners also are experiencing their own COVID situations. So that's being done. So under the NDC partnership, we're trying to get support to pursue the conclusion of the youth program started, and we continue to engage the youth on matters of NDC, and not just NDC, perhaps the issues on adaptation too, and any other aspect of climate action, because we are an important constituency, and that is very well recognized by the department.
Thank you. So stand by. I'm sure there are so many other issues that will be directed to you in some of the comments that are beginning to appear on the chat box, but just stand by. I will go to the other panelists. I want to invite Mr. Nemo Bassi. Mr. Nemo Bassi is the Executive Director for Health of Mother Art Foundation, and has been an activist and been past president of Friends of the Art International. Nemo, thank you for joining us. And before you came in, as you are aware, the 2015 NDC had oil and gas as one of the sectors, and the target under that particular sector is to eliminate gas flaring by 2030. And a question that came through from Coco is that considering that we're already in 2021, which actually is like not 10 years anymore, but like less than 10 years. And some of the challenges in our national circumstances, our dependence on the oil and gas sector, and of course, on the other hand, our commitment to reduce emission from that sector. I would want to have your thoughts on how do you see those aspirations, and what are the likely challenges, and of course, and quickly, what are your thoughts on how we can do this, achieve this differently? Nemo Bassi, please.
Thank you so much, Jose, and I thank the Climate Change Department for the presentation on the NDCs. And indeed, we should be very worried about our response in terms of the fact that even from the submissions in the NDC, that the energy sector is responsible for 60% of total national emissions. And the bulk of this is coming from the energy sector, more or less the oil and gas sector. And the critical way to tackle that issue is to stop gas flaring if it was possible yesterday. But we do know that it's not possible to stop gas flaring yesterday. It's quite disappointing that right from 1984, there's been different date targets set for stopping gas flaring in Nigeria, but each time it's been accompanied by a very tiny fine, so that it's much more easier for corporations and the government, NNPC, to pay the fines. Mostly the companies to pay the fine rather than stopping gas flaring. So we still have a lot of greenhouse gases coming from that sector. Now, gas flaring needs to be stopped. And now the deadline that government has set is 2030. A short while ago, it was 2020. Now we've crossed over 2020. And recently I heard the Minister of State for Petroleum saying that Nigeria will stop gas flaring in 2025. So why is this policy incoherence between the Ministry of Petroleum and Ministry of Environment? We have to have a definite date so that we know, is it 2025 or is it 2030? Now, there are a number of things you can do we're talking about gas associated with oil drilling, not just natural gas. There's flaring in natural gas fields, but those are not routine. There could be occasional that you flare to reduce pressure in the oil in the gas fields. In terms of associated gas, which is a big problem. This is gas that comes out of the wells as oil is being extracted. Now you can flare on an emergency basis. That's not a problem. It's not so much a problem. You can flare for certain processes, but you can also re-inject this gas. You can utilize the gas, or you can release the gas, which would not be acceptable for climate change reasons. And then the cheapest way is flaring, which is what we've been seeing right from the 1950s. So this is really horrible. Corporations have done this because, according to them, in the 50s, there was no market for natural gas. But now we have a big market, I believe, and we just need to overcome the technological, geographical factors, economic factors, and the structural factors in the market. But I think the biggest problem is the legal and regulatory environment. As long as flaring is permitted and the flarers are allowed to pay a fine, then they're going to continue flaring. So we need to have a situation where there's a definitive halt, a ban on gas flaring, and government puts its money where its mouth is. There's absolutely no reason. It's a monstrosity. There's been a legal case, a case that was ruled by a high court in 2005 that declared gas flaring illegal and against the human rights of Nigerians. So we have a problem where this sector produces so much greenhouse gas, jeopardizing our capacity to reach sustainable development goals, capacity to reach our targets for emission reduction, and we're still playing with different dates. 2005, 2025, 2030, we don't know where we stand. And my thoughts on this is that, number one, there should be a total ban on gas flaring as a human right and as a real climate action. Number two, gas flare law, the laws governing the sector should be reviewed to eliminate no need for penalty. If there's a penalty, it should be the commercial value of gas. That will be an incentive for corporations to behave better. And then those who are not compliant, corporations that are non-compliant should totally be, their activities should be shut down. So there should be mandatory metering of gas produced. And we should invest in this infrastructure. We have the 2018 gas flare regulation, very nice document, but that doesn't have the force of law. And we need to have a law that reaffirms the fact that this is an illegal activity. And then if you permit me, one last sentence, is that the Nigerian government, apart from trying to meet its climate Paris Agreement pledges, should also conduct a health audit in the gas flare communities, because the life of our people is number one. They cannot survive if they are unhealthy, and then the environment is also a challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Nimo. I think the last part on trying to link the impacts of oil and gas and flare and gas flare, and of course the interlinkage with health is quite important. And of course, once you don't have a healthy workforce, of course, then you have some consequences that will follow. And I think this is quite important. And the other issue about policy incoherence, that perhaps informed some of climate legislation. And we do have on this panel, Rotaru, my apology, I'll get back to you immediately after the distinguished senator has made his intervention. I want to confirm whether Senator Ike Ekweremadu is online, because he's supposed to be on this panel. And I had wanted to direct this question to him in terms of most of our, indeed, even the NDC is a policy. And we have faced the risks of policy reversals and policy incoherence. And I was just wondering to ask, in addition to the efforts that Onibo and his colleagues are making in trying to ensure that we have legislation, what the National Assembly and the Senate is doing too, to ensure that these policies are crystallized or are locked in some kind of legislation. But I am not sure distinguished senator is online. So I will go to Vasil Rotaru, who is a security expert and is the head of methodology, the integrated approach to security and peace, working for the European External Action Services. Roturo, climate change is identified as a threat multiplier, and of course to conflicts and instability, and it also is a major driver to vulnerabilities of climate change, particularly for us in the current humanitarian crisis that we are facing in Nigeria, bordering those from the lecture that has been identified by previous speakers. And within the middle belt, we have the header classes, farmers and header crisis. And of course, very soon, even within the southern part where we have sea level rise and the mangroves, we have all kinds of conflicts. And of course, these conflicts are likely to also weaken the adaptive capacity of individuals and institutions to respond to climate change. I want you to comment on the economic costs of all of this, particularly climate security, and in the context of our NDC, what would you recommend to see if we need to overcome this and to fully factor climate security issues or the vulnerabilities that are exacerbated by insecurity into our national development plan? Roturo, over to you, please.
Hello, thank you very much for having me here. My name is Vasile Rotaru. I work for the European External Action Service. I'm a head of sector. In my presentation, I would like to focus on the climate change and security nexus mostly, and what we are doing in this respect. Well, climate change is the EU's priority #1, and this is not just a statement. It is illustrated or supported by the European Green Deal. We have introduced our headline targets on climate into EU law. We are the most important provider of climate financing. The Green Deal also commits us to work with partners to increase climate and environmental resilience, to prevent climate challenges from becoming sources of conflict, food insecurity, displacement of population, and forced migration. It also supports a just transition at the global level. Most impacted by climate change are often countries which are more vulnerable and at the same time smaller emitters impact. So the EU is trying to remedy to these unfair geopolitics, and we make efforts to support the vulnerable countries through targeted assistance, to help them to build resilience and to optimize resource management. Just to give some examples, we have projects already.
Roturo, I think there's some kind of echo coming from your end. So you are a little bit, or maybe you are using two devices or something? Because
no,
there's some echo.
No,
there's some echo coming from your end.
No, I'm using only my headphones and on one computer. So I don't know exactly why
we have to manage that way, but there is some kind of echo coming from your end. And
should I continue or
stop using your headsets? I think that'll be fine, and use your audio from your computer. If you can take off your headset, thank you.
I can try.
You have to change your settings.
I tried without headphones, but I think you're not able to hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you. So maybe you can continue because.
Okay, I will try to
not-
speak a bit slower than maybe.
Yes, that will be helpful. That will be
Okay,
helpful.
great. So I was saying that I was referring earlier to the importance of climate change for you and about the Green Deal, the policy of Green Deal. And I was saying that we are trying as well to help countries which are more vulnerable and smaller emitters, and we are trying to deal with this kind of unfair geopolitics. I was saying that I wanted to highlight some examples where the EU is trying to help. And we have projects, for instance, in vulnerable communities in Darfur, in Tanzania, in Latin America, or in island states. Another important example is the Great Green Wall. This project, through which the EU, together with the other international partners, helps to restore degraded land in the countries in the Sahel region, including Nigeria. Nigeria is one of the EU's priority countries for climate diplomacy. We are aware that Nigeria suffers from climate change and environmental degradation, and that desertification, erosion, floods and droughts, loss of biodiversity exacerbate the risks of conflict. People in Nigeria know very well about these facets of climate change, of course, and insecurity. Therefore, our objective is to be a climate sensitive and conflict sensitive partner in Nigeria. We are very much aware that the impact of climate change goes well beyond rising temperatures, that it exacerbates vulnerabilities and crises, that it can act as a risk multiplier, putting additional pressure on food and water supplies, and having serious implications for peace and security. The link between climate change and security has been recognized several times at the EU level, and I can mention here the EU Council. In January this year, for instance, the Foreign Affairs Council highlighted that climate change and environmental degradation are threats to international stability and security. And the Council as well reiterated the need to strengthen the work in the climate and security nexus. Another example in this regard is the EU Security Union strategy. It's a new one. Well, it was adopted last year. And this strategy also acknowledges that climate change is a factor which affects the security landscape. We are as well in a process of defining a framework to ensure that the climate and security dimension is integrated in all our relevant policies and instruments, and with the understanding that the climate security nexus should be taken into account throughout the entire conflict cycle, and at all levels, international, regional, national, local. We are preparing in this regard a concept for an integrated approach on climate and change and security, and this concept is aimed to be finished in September this year. The concept will outline how to strengthen the consideration of climate and security nexus in all EU instruments, tools, policies, from development and humanitarian action to conflict prevention and crisis response. As we try to anticipate as well the effects of climate change on security, notably when it leads to migration and conflicts, we look at the climate change and security nexus through our anticipatory tools, like early warning, risk assessment. We have incorporated climate and environmental factors within horizon scanning, another instrument as well of analysis, taking into account the effect on climate change and environmental degradation as potential source of tension. This process, of course, contributes positively, improving as well EU efforts in the field of mediation. Then the climate security nexus is taken into account by all our analytical tools, but also by security sector reform, by disarmament, demobilization and reintegration processes, and CSDP missions and operations. This goes from the greening of our operations and missions to readiness to intervene on climate-related crises and disasters, and to take into account new, warmer or hotter conditions of intervention. The concept we are preparing builds on a EU integrated approach, supporting the mainstreaming of climate considerations in all relevant EU policy fields. As an example in this regard can be as well the new Neighborhood Development and International Cooperation Instrument, Global Europe, NDICI as an acronym, which plays a key role in addressing the climate and security nexus, both at the local, regional, international level. It is important to highlight that climate is really at the core of NDICI instrument, with 30% spending target for climate input. By recognizing the importance of climate-related security risk, the EU sets an example of an integrated approach towards promoting peace and security. This new instrument in NDICI will allow for...
Rutoro, hold it there. Thank you very much for providing this. And I think at this stage where I will give you another opportunity, but perhaps when you come next, I want you to address the issue as it relates to human security. The human security is a complete cycle of food security, water security, energy, health, and it's supposed to be an unbroken chain. So if you are unable to address one, then of course it's as weak as
thank you very much
chain.
for having me here. I wish you a great panel, and thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you
Goodbye.
very much. Thank you very much. So a few things have come up, particularly in terms of the roles of states, and that has been a little bit touchy issue because constitutionally, states also have under the concurrent list, the states also have powers to also legislate on issues relating to environment and energy to some extent. And some states have taken the leverage of doing that. Some states already have a full-fledged Ministry of Environment, and while others are very progressive, they also have laws with carbon accounting in them, like River State, while others are way behind. And of course, in trying to see how all of this the NDC, which is supposed to be a national target, how do we ensure that all of these are counted, that actions that take place in states and local governments, or in some in the lower in environments where we need to account for it. So I would want Professor Oladipo to maybe throw a little bit light on the framework that is being developed in terms of the subnational integration and ensuring that the emission abatement that happens in states and local government are properly captured, and they go towards actually accounting for our NDC targets. So Prof, you want to talk about that? And somebody also raised issue about low perception of climate change issues. And of course, that also affects people's participation in terms of action. And how do we redress that? Prof, please.
Thank you very much. I think there's no doubt that there's still generally low perception, but we have a very good opportunity this year in particular. I think to some extent, a lot of Nigerians started asking questions. What is happening? Because the southern part are used to receive rains in March, February, part of April received more or less nothing, and people became a bit aware, and we started talking about things moving, it's changing on there. So I think we can capitalize on that one, using this year as an example to quickly build on the very good initiatives that the Department of Climate Change had been using to sensitize the states into taking climate change as a serious development issue, which have to be captured, which has to be properly addressed, and to see how they can build their own capacity to the point of making this information and the knowledge available at their own local level, which is where the best opportunity arises. I think we can also improve on using the radio system in particular now, not too much of TV. If every day you are driving in Abuja, until recently, I think you hear this Berekete radio. If such a program can be really established, that everybody knows that every day or once in a week, at a particular time, issues of climate change, flood, droughts, and all the rest are addressed nationally, will be an opportunity. The tools that we have developed, I think I'm not sure whether we can continue to use that now, but I think the easiest way for me is to support the states to develop state action plans from the national policies and programs now. So rather than, I'm always very uncomfortable when the states say I'm developing a policy on climate change. There's a national policy, there's a national program. Let the states be made to understand that they can develop the action plan. And then with all these action plans, we can now see how the national government can help to source funding, both nationally. I'm saying that the state, the national government, the federal government should not take the bull by the horn. Insist that once we have now a new national policy and a new national program on climate change, let each state develop the action plans from this policy and program, not a state developing another state policy on climate change. Lagos State has started something very well, and they have about 5-point agenda in which so let's look at all those ones and encourage every state to develop a national action plan. State action plan. With the national action plan, we will now be able to match these plans in such a way like what they did in India and use them to source funding from both national and international sources. And as I said, this is an area that we are still very weak. We are not accessing international fund enough. Let us build upon this. Otherwise, we will not be able to implement this NDC if we are not able to really develop programs that can help us access this funding. I want to make the issue of sustainability very clear. The issues raised by NEMO point to the fact that if we are able to curb gas flaring and convert these gas into national use rather than flaring them, we are enhancing the sustainability of our development. And I'm happy that government has agreed that gas is the alternative for now, which can propel our economy, as most of the other renewable energy sources may not be able to drive the industrial development process as we expect, but we'll be able to at least meet the demands at the household level and allow the gas to prepare the economy in a way and manner that can help us to improve our quality of life and the well-being of the people. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll just take two of our panelists by just refer them to a few discussion, then I'll open the floor for any other question. But Nimbo, you mentioned in your discussion about the effects of gas flaring and of course the health implication. Of course, the other aspect, of course, is the oil spill, which perhaps might be another component of environmental risks that is being faced. And of course, it also has its other implication. Perhaps you want to talk about that particular aspect and then again, proffer some few suggestions before I go to Kelo.
Please, could you repeat the question?
No. I was saying, the first aspect of your discussion was centered around gas flare and of course the need to do some. But I was saying that another environmental risk being faced in the oil producing areas is the issue of oil spills. And of course, it also has its own both economic and human implications. And maybe you can talk about that, and of course some few pointers to what perhaps we can link up with some of the measures that have been identified in the NDC, if to use it as a holistic approach in addressing some of those challenges.
Yes, indeed. I was one of the things I'm surprised about in the NDC document is that although it mentions about ending zero gas flaring, but we don't really see the mechanisms towards achieving that. I see a lot of elaboration on other things, but on gas flaring, that document is largely silent, except maybe in two places. Now, as you rightly mentioned, oil spills are also a problem for climate because the crude oil is very volatile material. So it releases that from the spills it releases a lot of greenhouse gases to the atmosphere. And we're having a number of accidents, spills in the field. And there's one particular one I would like to mention that occurred in April 2020 at Ororo 1 oil well off the coast of Ondo State. That there was a blowout there that had both gas fire and oil spill, and that is still going on. As for the last time I checked in May, I'm not sure, it was still going on. With satellite images show all that spill is still going on, and the burning is still going on. That is a kind of greenhouse gas being released to the atmosphere that is not being accounted for. And of course, it had doing massive damage to the aquatic ecosystem. So the spills, the oil spills, gas flares, waste dump, produced water, all kinds of pollution going on, they have massive impact on the well-being of ecosystems, on the well-being of the people, and in itself, for the capacity of the people to build resilience to the impacts of global warming. So stopping gas flaring and stopping oil spills by a number of mechanisms, including meeting the socioeconomic and political demands of the people in the region, would go a long way towards mitigating impact of climate change.
In some of what you've noticed in terms of the lack of mechanism for the implementation of the oil and gas, I think Halima would talk about that, but may I just mention that, like earlier referred to, the NDC is going to have an implementation plan. And the implementation plan will, of course, also want to identify and encompass some of those measures. And I think stakeholders are also being invited to provide some of the thinking that will go into those implementation plans in terms of concrete kind of action that will go in. And having worked in that sector, I think you will be encouraged to also to forward to DCC some of your thinking on what could be done in that sphere. Thank you very much. So, Kelo, you have been working a lot with the youths in terms of from gray to green, and you talked about the high impact kind of. But I want you to be specifics. Currently, what do you think are the kind of low-hanging fruits that the youths can be mobilized to achieve in the short term? Since we're looking at having this NDC between now and 2025, in the short term, what do you think, or do you consider to be some kind of low-hanging fruits that the Nigerian youths can be mobilized, particularly with reference to what Halima said on the NDC Youth Manual and the NDC on the Youth Innovative Hub that they are anchoring, and the UNDP. Perhaps you have some other insights on what might be low-hanging fruits that can be leached on now. Kelly?
Okay,
Kello?
yeah. Yes, okay, thank you very much, Susie. Okay, I think to solve, a problem like a global challenge like climate change, all solutions have to be put on the table, and one of these solutions is activism and pressure from the society, from youth. And if you look at over the past 2 years, you've seen a rise in the youth climate movement who have been campaigning across the globe to build momentum. So that is one of the spots that the youth can also feel, trying to build momentum, trying to call, trying to drive action. I know that to actually get these things done, we need to have policymakers, the decision makers, not just the decision makers, but the industry to also act. So the youth have a very special position at this point to try to drive this action, to try to force this action to lobby politicians, to lobby decision makers, to lobby those in charge to commit to action. But not just that. When Basi talked about gas flaring and the current challenges posed, one of the reasons why gas is being flared in the first place is the lack of adequate technology to process these gases, or the proximity to market. And looking at that particular sector, we found out that still, you look at the youth, you find a whole millions of untapped talents that can come in with creative solutions. I've mentioned this before. I've seen youth that build, very impactful, high impact solutions that tackle some of the immediate challenges that we are currently facing. There is a whole lot of them. Once you call for a hackathon, you see youth, give them 2 months, give them 3 months to see them come brainstorm, come up with, various ideas, groundbreaking ideas that has the potential to solve some of the immediate challenges they are facing, or some of the market frictions that we're facing in a path to transition. So trying to bring this youth, trying to give them the platform, give them the enablement to scale some of these solutions, to scale some of these initiatives, will be one of the key, footings that, we can stand there and build. Another thing I would like to see happen is, I feel that there is a mismatch between the 4 quadruple helix of the society. And what I call the 4 quadruple helix of the society is the government, the industry, the academia, and also the community. There is currently a mismatch. I've not seen these 4 sectors of these 4 pillars of the society work in synergy to drive action. I'm happy that we have Honorable Samuel Onibo on the call, who is from the government. We have Professor Radipo, who is from the academia, and also various people who are from the industry or from the community. So building a synergy between these 4 pillars of the society, where academic research can feed into policies, and also academic research, industry, the work that people, the innovations or the work that is being carried out in industry will be informed, by the policies of the governance, or also from the output of the from the academic research, and also the community, because most of these things, at the end of the day, it's the community that will either benefit or suffer from this impact. If you look at climate change and how it goes, it's the community that face the impact. Talking about, if I talk about communities, you talk about the low-income communities, you talk about marginalized communities that don't have the platform or the capacity to adapt to the impact of climate change. So I like to see a synergy, between these 4 pillars of the society. These will have the potential to catalyze action, in a very large scale. And also, I think also one other area, I think youth have to step up, in leadership, having to step up in leadership, apart from building innovative solutions, apart from campaigning and doing local grassroots activism. I think there is also an opportunity for youth to, be involved in these decision-making processes. To see the challenges firsthand, to see the challenges firsthand, the opportunities to add the firsthand, and try to come up with this fresh eye, this eye for fresh perspective, and bring the fresh perspective towards some of these processes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kilo, for that. And I think perhaps I might want to invite Halima again, maybe on the role of the Lagos Climate Change Innovative Hub, where they are supposed to be matchmaking research and markets, and see how some novel ideas could be upscaled to market solutions. And so Halima, again, we had talked about that, but maybe you want to provide some more direct response to that, if you are still here.
Uzi, I'm here, but I'm almost not here. Having a very rough morning or afternoon. So many things I have to deal with at the same time. But I did hear about the Youth Innovation Hub. As I said earlier, we still do have the plans of doing the Youth Hub. The nature of it, the National Youth Hub, we've done the regional. The nature of it, yes, we did speak with the leadership of the Innovation Hub. We were looking at how to do some kind of collaboration, and they've been talking with the UNDP also. So for now, we are looking at how to make it a bit richer, but then it is now not up to us alone. We are looking at the most, how would I say, the most cost-effective way of putting the program together that will also address other things. Yes, we do know about the Youth Innovative Hub, and we have been speaking with them on the best way to carry our youth along in the work that they do.
Thank you, Shalima, for that. And I think it's an issue that Kilo can always follow up with the department, so that all the youths that are on this platform can also keep a track on that and be part of it, because we believe that the solution must come from the young minds. I just want to confirm again whether the distinguished senator has joined us, because he is a member of, he's supposed to be a panelist, and of course we need to acknowledge and give him opportunity to make his inputs if he's around. Can anybody confirm if the senator is online? Okay, I understand he's around. Distinguished senator, you are welcome, and thank you for joining us, and thank you for always being part of the revision process. And he's no longer here. Okay. Okay, I understand he's no longer here. So earlier during on the chat box, there was a comment from C40 on the roles of cities and the NDC, and perhaps the IT, can we make direct interventions? Can participants talk on this, or do we have to resort to chat? Oh, okay, yeah, sure. So there was a suggestion from C40 on the roles of cities, and perhaps I can give them opportunity to actually make that suggestion now. C40.
So thank you, Huzi. Good afternoon, everyone. Professor Oladipo has alluded to the point I raised, and it's just around making subnational government more visible.
Are you in a private jet? Are you flying over a private? It's good to be a big man. Oh.
Yeah, it's a facade, really.
Are you in a go ahead? I envy you. Go ahead.
Okay, it's just to make subnational governments a bit more visible in the NDC. But I think Professor Oladipo has alluded to what I said, and then has also spoken to what the national government is doing. But another point I want to raise, please, is are we looking at developing a framework for vertical integration? Because some states, I know of Lagos because I work with Lagos, is doing quite a bit in the climate change space. But if there's no tracking mechanism to link it with what the national government is doing, you know, there will be a lot of incoherence. So are we having plans? Are we planning towards having a vertical integration mechanism as we go about implementing the NDC? Thank you very much.
Perhaps just to provide an information about the work that had been supported by the Islamic Development Bank on developing a subnational framework. And I think Prof was also part of that team, and perhaps he can make a response to that. So, Prof, I'll parry that question to you, having been a member of that team that developed the framework for the sub-national integration and to ensuring that activities at the state level are not left out. Prof, over to you, please.
Hello?
Go ahead, sir.
What do you want to say again?
Well, he's asking for specifics in terms of not losing out on certain things that happened at the stage. So I was saying that perhaps you can give.
Who's asking for the specific?
C40.
But I thought C40 has a focus. And to me, it's one of the best approaches we can use to help other urban areas in Nigeria, in which the challenges of climate change are totally different from the rural ones, whether we like it or not. If our C40, the most important thing now is the action plan that you have. Can we start now putting ideas together? Number one, to make the proposals concrete, that Lagos State government can see the benefit of what you want them to do. That's so that internal resources can come from Lagos State. Second one is to look for an embracing proposal that can be clustered using the Lagos as a pilot for a national program that can be supported by some of the external funding that is available. So if we can do it that way, I think it will really show, for instance, if you can focus on how do we manage waste in an urban environment that can solve the issue of maintained emission, create employment opportunities, make the city more aesthetically clean, and all the rest. That's one. Two, in Lagos, how do we do the transportation system that can reduce the rate of GHG emission? What are the things that need to be done? And how can what the government is doing now be expanded to start? For instance, in 2009, I think Uzi, you were with us in Thailand when we went with Ewa. Keke Napep in Thailand, in Bangkok, was already using gas. So if you start with something very simple, like all Keke Napep, wherever they are going to be restricted to, in both Ogun and Lagos, that seem to have both conurbation together, all Keke Napep must go on gas. And all it requires is just everybody buy gas cylinder and change the injectors. I think that's very simple. Keke Napep was carrying me around in Bangkok gasoline and that propelled. So that will reduce the type of congestion. So let's look for some initiatives, create an avenue, little money, bring people together to think through, and start with one or two major projects that once it succeeds in Lagos, the government of Nigeria will be very happy to replicate it in Port Harcourt, in Kano, in Enugu, and other places that may be suffering from the same type of. How do you manage flood, for instance? Adaptation program, climate change adaptation fund can be available for such money, that managing flood in an urban environment to reduce the vulnerability of the people in an integrated manner. Not just the hard work thing we are doing. When the rain starts, we start clearing the drainage. When the rain stops, nobody cares again. No. Can some of these drainages now be modified to, why should we not have water to drink when we can collect all the water from the drainages into small dams towards Ekpe axis, and then use that water being collected from Lekki axis towards Ekpe to provide water for pipe-borne water for people in the areas that are not having it. So those are some of the things but it requires strategic things, and try to find out, starting with very small things that maybe state funding can start, then use it to build proposals that can be supported by the Global C40, Adaptation Fund, Green Fund, GEF, and all the rest. And I think that's, to me, will be there. But you already have the action plan. I think, to me, those 5 entry points are good enough. And all, if you need anything to modify them, just look at them to address the current situations that you find in the state. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prof. I think what I will, if you allow me, is to do an email to the director. So Halima, if you can hear me, I will do an email and I will copy Prof and I will copy Huzi so that we can see how we can scale this up. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, but I would rather have a formal communication through the Honorable Minister of Environment, and we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Okay, Ma, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We still have just less than 15 minutes, so I will still allow the floor open if there is any final intervention. Oh, okay. I can see Olumide. Go ahead. Olumide, go ahead. Okay, there is what is the status of the climate finance access to international fund is lacking, and I'm very sure DCC and can lead in driving more finance for implementation of projects. Halima?
Well, I think today is one of those days that they say when it rains, it pours, right?
Yes.
What it is. Climate finance, we have been able to get through the support of the UK government, a climate finance advisor. And prior to that, we have been working with the Federal Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning to do quite a lot of the programming and see how we can get support through that route. But our climate finance desk here has been up and doing also. They have, within their own capacity, been the ones that have enabled us issue 2 bonds going on 3. And we do have officers that deal with the Green Climate Fund. And we have made a lot of progress that way, having more programs that involved Nigeria earlier being approved, and then having some readiness of recent being uploaded for consideration by the GCF. We have more interactions with the GEF, the Global Environment Facility, on work that are doing in that sphere, and also with the Adaptation Fund. We are getting more and more proposals that are targeted towards the Adaptation Fund. And as I said in the beginning, during the ministerial level, Nigeria also, the government, I mean, has tried on its own to try and finance some projects within the green bonds sphere, including the afforestation and renewable energy one. But those, of course, are for to service sovereign green bonds, and it's for the federal government. We have received a lot of requests from individuals and organizations to be included on the various GCF, whether it's loans or grants. We receive them and we process them. We're doing our best to funding as best as we can for the projects that are also priority for the people and government of Nigeria. So we are trying to increase or make the situation a bit better. And I think we're making more progress, because prior to now, we have been involved with these various international funds and have not really made much advances that way. And that's brought about the suggestion for the green bonds funding mechanism. So we're working and we're doing our best to secure funding for the projects that come from Nigeria and the citizens of Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Halima, for that. And thank you, participants. I think I will just quickly just provide some quick overview of or summary of some of the suggestions that have come in terms from this discussion. That participants actually welcome the revised NDC, but I've suggested some way of strengthening the implementation. The idea that we do have policies, but implementation has been the bane of most of these policies have been re-echoed, and it also resonated with most of the participants, and therefore there is a need to see how that can be strengthened, either in the form of a legislation, which Honorable encouraging states to develop a state action plan with very concrete proposals on how to build resilience and also mitigate the effects of GHG emission had also been emphasized. The nexus between climate and security has been established. However, the approaches on how that can be done at our national level is still not too clear, but the work that the EU is doing, and I think the Ministry of Environment will be interested in seeing the kind of tools that have been developed and the framework that has and the framework that had been referred to that is being developed by the EU in terms of addressing security issues within the context of climate change, so that lessons can be learned and we can perhaps do some adaptation of that kind of framework locally. And the issue of resource mobilization is critical because even if you have the best of plans and the resources are not available, then it becomes a big problem. And of course, Halima has outlined some of the efforts that have been made, but I think if we are also able to get a piece of legislation that clearly defines where those fundings will come from in terms of budgets and in terms of maybe taxes and some kind of incentives for the private sector to invest in some of those sectors where the risks are vast, I think that would be quite helpful. And there is suggestion too on trying to have some clarity on the kind of mechanism that would be required to address the issue of ending gas flare for the NDC sector. It has been advocated, and we have encouraged participants to also provide their inputs on what might go into the implementation plan, so that when the implementation plan is being developed, that can be taken into consideration. The role of youths and the energy, the resourcefulness, the innovativeness, and of course the momentum that is currently being generated from the side of the youth should not be lost out. And therefore the synergy must be built, and of course the bridge between what they are doing and how that can be scaled up into market solutions needs to be explored. And of course, it's been indicated that the platform that has been developed for the Youth Innovative Hub should be explored, and then our youths are also encouraged to see how they can be part of that platform. And the synergy between research and markets has been re-emphasized, and I think that is very crucial. And in one of our work streams under the NDC support program, we have created a lot of working groups in terms of ensuring no one is left behind. We have established business roundtables for the NDC. We have had meetings with women group. We've established women working groups. Last week, we've established a working group for CSOs, and we also have for youths. And the only one that I think still needs to be inducted is the one for research institutes and the academy. And we think that is very important for the implementation, so that even the issue of data that had been identified as a big challenge, we believe that so many of those data reside in some of those research institutions, is that because perhaps we've not approached them in a manner that will gain access to those data. and therefore the research and academia working group will certainly in the next quarter be instituted. And of course, the issue of increasing awareness, that has remained a constant imperative if we have to mobilize people to participate, because you need to educate people on what their roles are, and they need to have clear understanding of the expectations before they can act, and therefore they need to continue to increase awareness so that we can crystallize and increase public participation is very, very important. And and I also see one more information about the communication strategy that has been developed and is being translated into local languages in order to ensure that no one is left behind, and to communicate this in a language people better understand. On that note, I want to thank you very much for the participation, and I want to find out, is there, before I invite Halima to make her closing remarks from the EU side, is there anybody who is going to close this session for us from the EU side, please? Admin? Hello? Okay, Godfrey, you're there, good. So Godfrey, please, can you bring this session to a close, and perhaps if there are any next steps how we can continue this dialogue, and or how we can crystallize some of the suggestions that came out of here, or how we can leverage some of the ongoing initiatives that the members of the EU have rolled out, several of those ones heading towards COP26, but more importantly for us, to see how we can strengthen our implementation of the revised NDC. So Godfrey, over to you, please.
Thank you very much. I think I have, I can see that my head of cooperation is still in the room. I don't know if Cecile will have to say something here. Cecile? Okay, I think her mic is muted. Otherwise, I will say thank you very much to everyone. We really want to appreciate the speakers for the time. And we have made notes, and the action points will follow up with after this webinar. First of all, we really want to appreciate all our panelists. I know everyone here is very busy, but being able to spend this time with us, we really appreciate you all. Thank you very much to all participants as well for being patient from the opening session down to this session, the breakout session. We also want to appreciate you. We also want to appreciate you, Mr. Uzi, for handling this session, moderating this session. Though we had initially technical challenges, but it's part of having events online. But we want to say thank you very much to everyone. Thank you very much. Over.
Thank you very much. And the final word from Madam Halima, please.
Final word from me, Uzi, is thank you for putting me on the spot.
Say bye-bye to us.
Thank you for putting me on the spot. Seriously though, I would like to thank the EU for providing this platform for us to be able to at least give a glimpse into what the department is doing alongside our partners in climate action. And it's been a good opportunity to also, within this session, hear feedback from stakeholders, be it the youth, the private sector, partners, experts. So we are thankful for the opportunity. I hope that we are able to interject, and Uzi, thank you for stretching out, we can see that. And that we're able to deliver on the programs we already have, and also incorporate some of the things we have had, the suggestions we have had in this session and the previous one. All we want is to be able to serve better and also listen better, so we have a Nigeria that is climate resilient. And as, of course, we are just coordinating. It's everybody's job to do that. And we look forward to further partnerships, whether it's individual or institutional or by way of partnerships anyway, generally in every aspect of climate action. I thank you for this opportunity to bring the work we do at the DCC to fore, in as much as it's just a glimpse. And yes, on the lighter note, thank you. Today has proved that when it rains, it pours, but somehow I have developed some kind of strength to be able to wither. It's been a multitasking time here. Sorry, I didn't give all the attention to this platform, but the conversation continues, I'm sure it continues. So thank you, everyone. And Huzi, after I'm done, so after you finish your stretching, come and finish the meeting. Thank you, everyone. Safe trip. We continue this discussion. Bye.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here, and it's nice all meeting you. Thank you for the participation, and goodbye. Stay safe. Bye-bye.